In this video, we're gonna cover exactly how to get rich quick. And I'm not talking about some fluff or some BS or some not actionable steps. I'm gonna give you actually what you need to think about. What is the framework to actually make a shit ton of money in a relatively short time, like I was able to do. Now, year to date, we're doing a little bit under $6 million in the last 3 years or so. So that's not a long time to make all this type of money. And also, my first 100K in 1 month took about, I think it was like 5.5 months or so. It was like 3 years ago, so it's hard for me to remember the exact time frame, but it wasn't a long time. I went absolutely from zero to building a 100K month business in around 4 months. And it's actually three businesses that I was able to take through 100K per month in a relatively short time. The longest was my first business. That one took like about 8 months. The shortest is actually the business that I'm running right now. It took about 2 months and a half to hit 100K per month. So I know what the F I'm talking about, okay? So if you actually want to learn what is my framework or what do I think about when I'm trying to make a lot of money, watch this video, okay? So the first thing we have to cover that we cannot miss is understanding that selling something valuable is what you need to do, right? You don't get rich from saving, you get rich from selling a service, a product, and offer and something that is scalable, right? That is the most important part about this, that you need to provide value to the market. Now, if you already knew this, good. Now we got to talk about the next thing, because that's part of the thing that you're getting wrong. That's why you're not making enough money. But essentially, the first thing is providing value to the marketplace. Okay, now what exactly is value? So there's a perfect equation that Alex Mosa came up with that it just demonstrates this. Like, you get value when you give dream outcome, right? When the time delay, so how quickly you can get somebody the result, the perceived likelihood of achievement, and effort and sacrifice. So pretty much, what is the sacrifice they have to give? What is the effort? What is the work they have to do in order to get that? So if you solve all these four, that translate into giving an individual value, right? So you give them the dream outcome, you do it in a relative short time. They show before even purchasing your offer, they see the perceived value of them achieving that thing, right? And also how much effort and sacrifice they need to put into what the service that you're selling them in order to get results. And I'm gonna talk about this a little bit later, but let's say like credit repair, right? Somebody pays you a credit repair. What do they actually have to do? They pretty much don't have to do anything. The perceived likelihood of achievement could be really high. You get me? Because they're like, I need to get my credit fixed in order to achieve X, Y, and Z. So that's how you provide value, right? Is giving them something that they desire, a dream outcome, right? And you can do that for them in a relative short amount of time. Also, that they perceive the likelihood of them achieving them is very high, and also that they don't have to sacrifice a lot of effort in order to get that problem solved. Okay, so that equals volume. So if you have a offer right now, go through the value equation and see if it's actually valuable. Okay, now the biggest thing that I see most people have is the level of problem that they're solving is not big enough in order for them to make a lot of money. So this is like the problem that people that know they're selling something valuable and they know they have to be valuable in the marketplace, but they're still not making a lot of money, is because the size of the problem that you're solving is not big enough, right? The bigger the problem, the more you're gonna get paid. And I'm gonna give you kind of like a simple example. So here we have three problems, okay? We have problem number one, problem number two, and problem number three, okay? Now, problem number one is barbershop. I need to cut my hair. That's one problem. Cleaning services, that's another problem. Somebody that already is making money, they don't want their house to be constantly dirty or whatever, or their wife also works within the business or whatever it may be, so they pay somebody to clean their house, right? Or another problem is business funding, right? Somebody that needs capital, and if they don't get that capital, pretty much their business tanks or bankrupts because they don't have enough capital to either pay employees, grow the business, buy equipment. Really big problem, right? So which of these three problems do you think are gonna get paid more? Well, I mean, if you didn't notice already from the size of the circle, you will probably know that it's number three, right? Because how much can you really charge for cutting hair? Well, I pay my barber. He does house cuts. I pay him around 150 for him to come to my house, and he cuts me, my brother's hair. He's also become a friend of ours, so we're just always shooting the shits and stuff like that. So for 150 bucks, he cuts two hair for like about 30 minutes, right? So That's a problem that relatively every person have. You know, they need to cut their hair, X, Y, and Z. But you're not solving a huge problem, right? Like I could go on. Sometimes I go out a month or two without cutting my hair, to be honest. You know, so it's not a huge problem that you're solving. So that's why the pay is low for the problem that you're solving, because it's not a something that is just urgent, something that if I do solve, I could potentially make a shit ton more money. I could be a shit more successful. Doesn't really do that, right? Let's say clean the house, right? That's pretty valuable too, because you don't want your house to be dirty as f. You know, you probably have food everywhere. The house smells like crap because you're probably always in the office and working like a madman. So it's a decent sized problem, but you can also just go pick it up yourself if you don't want to pay somebody 1,500 a month to clean your whole entire house, right? You can be like, hey, fuck it, you know, I'm just gonna do it myself. So you can't charge too much for this, right? Because again, you could do it yourself, and some people could be just lazy as shit and wait till the house is complete, a dumpster fire, and then they go clean it. So you know, it's the pain is not big enough, right? It's not there's not a lot of urgency. Now, let's say business funding. This you can charge anywhere between 4,000 to 10,000 upfront, and then back end percentages of the funding that you get the individuals. I mean, we've seen 15K payouts, we've seen $22,000 payouts. I've seen even $30,000 payout, depending on the amount you get somebody funded, right? And that is a huge problem. Why? Because good God, who doesn't need more capital for even just individuals, not business owners? Even if it's just individuals, what individual wouldn't want, let's say, 30 to 50 grand of 0% interest, so they could either start or scale the business or maybe remodel the business? I remember one of my first person that I funded in my circle was my stepfather. He needed money just to he could repair some things in the backyard. He wanted to add like a little pool and stuff. So instead of getting like a construction loan or whatever it may be, we actually got him 0% funding, just because it was 0% for 2 years. He didn't need a lot of capital. So hey, why not get him a 0% so he can fix the problem that you had? You get me? So huge problem. So again, the level of problem and complexity, the level of complexity of that problem, it will tell you the size of it, and the bigger the size of that problem, the more you get paid out. Just think about it like this. Why you think Elon Musk is one of the richest men in the world? Well, he's sending fucking rockets out into space, and they're landing standing still, something that NASA could have not accomplished, right? So the level of complexity of the problem that he's solving is tremendous. Also, Neuralink, he's literally putting chips on people's brain, people that can't move or walk, all right? So they just kind of like, they cannot move. And then with these chips, now they can finally communicate with a computer or move the computer around with their brain, so they could finally start communicating and doing other things. Like I saw a video of a guy playing a video game with a ship, and this is something that he couldn't do before. He was just sitting all day long. You get me? And imagine how torturous and boring that could be. But now he's solving that problem. It's a huge fucking problem. Also, the Tesla cars, right? He's trying to stop having vehicles to use gasoline. So he's solving global problems, right? He's literally solving world problems. So that's why he's one of the richest men in the world. Also, think of Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos, literally any product you can think of, you can order from the comfort of your home now. Before, you have to get in the car, go to the groceries, go to the stores, go to the Walmart, go to the Best Buy, go whatever you need to buy, and drive to it. Now, if like just yesterday, we needed a cable for one of our cameras, and it's an adapter, and we couldn't find the adapter somewhere. I don't know if we lost it while we were traveling. I don't know where it went, but we lost it. So instead of me getting in my car and driving to a Best Buy or like a electronic store, my wife just ordered it on Amazon, and it got here the next morning. Convenience, solving huge fucking problem. That's why he's worth billions of dollars. Again, the level of complexity that you're trying to solve that problem, the bigger the problem, the more money you will make. So you got to be very careful when you're thinking about, okay, this is what I'm gonna focus on, this the niche I'm gonna focus on. You gotta see the potential of the niche, and you gotta see, okay, how much money can I actually make from this niche? What is the biggest problem in this niche? And let me solve that problem so I could get bigger payouts. All right. So that's something to keep in mind that is extremely important. I don't think a lot of people think about this when they get into different industries, like somebody doing cutting hair or someone in the cleaning industry. They know they're providing value and they know they're solving a problem, but the industry itself is capped, right? Because let's say for the barbershop, how much realistically you charge somebody from cutting hair. Even if it's a celebrity, maybe you can cut somebody that's in the fashion. Maybe you can charge them $1,000, maybe $2,000. I don't know what it is, but how many realistic are those you do in a week or a month? Maybe you do 1 gig a month that you're cutting hair from, I don't know, fucking Kanye West or Drake or a famous rapper that maybe they're paying you $1,000 every time you cut the hair, but that's not consistent, and that's like such a slim chances of that happening, right? So it's like somebody that knows that they're solving a problem, they want to give value to the market, but the only skill they have is cutting hair. Is very difficult for them to charge, let's say, $10,000 for the services. So they are solving a problem. It is a valuable problem, a value problem, but it's not big enough for you can charge a certain, high ticket. And if you want to make a lot of money, you need to start charging more. The more you charge, the bigger the problem, the more you can make. Okay, so think about this and don't make the wrong decision, because I remember, just to wrap this in the point, I remember I read somewhere, I forgot which book was it. I think it was Warren Buffett book, that he said it's not how hard you row, but which boat you're in, which is pretty much the point that I'm trying to make here. Like, it just hit it on the head on nail, because it doesn't matter how hard you row. If you're in a boat just rowing, it just what matters what size of boat you're in, and that will mean that you can just row a little bit and you get further along. And the reason why he says this, because he has a friend that he's one of his close friends actually. He said that this man was absolutely brilliant, one of the smartest people that he came across with. And the thing is that he went into the steel industry. And in the steel industry, he still made a shit ton of money, but he's only worth, I think it was like $50 million or something like that, which is a shit ton of money. But it was just a tough business. And even that he was one of the best people in that industry, he was only worth 50 million. Now Warren went into the financial industry, he went into the investment industry, and he's worth what, fucking $100 billion or something like that. So dramatic difference, and it didn't matter about intelligence, it didn't matter about work ethic, it didn't matter about none of that. What all it mattered is the size of the problem they were solving in what niche, in one industry. Extremely important. So if you want to make a lot of fucking money, you got to make the right decision on which industry you want to go deep in, and and so you can see how much money you're going to make. Because again, it doesn't matter how hard you row the boat, it's the size of the boat that matters, the size of the problem that you're solving. That is what really matters. Okay, so let's move on from that. So I hope you really get it, because this is really important. Okay, now solve a problem. Forget what can I sell. Start with what frustrates people enough that they're willing to pay for. So this is the part you got to start picking the industry, right? Things people complain about on Reddit, Facebook groups, or YouTube comments, right? Repeated question you see under: how do I get clients? How do I fix my credit? How do I get funding? Pain equals opportunity. So the bigger the pain, the bigger opportunity, the bigger the payout, the more money you will make in a shorter amount of time. For me, I was able to, for my funding company, I scaled it to, like I said, it was like 100K per month in around 4.5 or 5.5 months, because I was solving a huge problem. Like, what business owner doesn't need capital? So like, I was already putting myself in front of the problem, right? So the problem is right here. There's a current of problem, right? I literally just put myself in front of the problem, and people were coming to me for the solution, because the problem was already out there. The market was already looking for this solution. They just didn't have somebody serve it to them or marketing to them. So that's why I was able to scale my company in a relatively short time. I mean, I don't think 5 months is a long time to be making 100 grand. You get me? And I wasn't keeping 100 grand. I was probably keeping like 65 to 75K of that profit, because I have a very small team, so we're very lean, and I was keeping most of the profit. I don't want to get to the backstory of why I had the lean team and why I need to be extremely profitable. That's a whole other story, but that's why I was able to make a lot of money in a relatively short amount of time, because the problem was already out there. I just put myself in front of the problem with the solution, with my service, with my offer, and I was able to scale quickly because the demand was there. Okay, so very important to understand. Now, what you need to do is pick your niche, right? That's the first thing you need to do. Pick a niche, whatever you want. Like, I'm making this video, and my whole YouTube channel is about helping the financial industry, credit companies, funding companies, insurance companies, and tax accountants. right? So I just need, so sorry about that. So whatever, pick your niche, whatever it is. I picked the financial niche because I already had a funding company. I've worked with a lot of tax people. I worked with a lot of people in the insurance. I worked with definitely with a lot of credit people. So I already had experience in that industry. So that's why I picked that niche. So pick whatever niche you want and go hard on it. Okay. Now for us with the financial niche, and the reason why I picked the financial niche, because if you want to make money, be in the money business. That's kind of like the idea that I had. I was like, if I want to make a lot of money, I should be in an environment that it talks about money. Again, putting myself in the current, right? If the current is going this way and the money is flowing this way, I'm gonna put myself in the same position that the money is flowing, so I can have increase my chances of me making more. Because if you want to make money, me in the money business. Simple as that. Okay. Now, this is another way that I could describe also. Even in the financial industry, right? There's different problems. So this is how I'm telling you that picking the problem you're solving is extremely important, because it will equal how much you make and by when. Because if you're charging less, it might take you longer and you might have to work with more clients to make the same amount of money as somebody who's charging more. For the example that I always give all my clients is the credit repair companies and the funding companies, right? In credit repair, you can't charge too much, because if you charge too much, people are not going to pay you for that services. And usually it's B2C clients. So B2C, business to customers, you can't really charge that much. B2B, business to business, you can usually charge a lot more, because business owners usually have bigger problems. But in the credit repair space, tell me which options you rather do. Would you rather work with 100 clients that pay you $1,000, right, in 1 month, so you can make 100 grand? So that's 100 clients you're dealing with. Or would you rather work with 10 clients that pay you $10,000? And the answer is, for me, is super obvious. I rather work with 10 clients that pay me $10,000. I'm solving a bigger problem. I'm working with better entrepreneurs, and I'm getting paid out with way less headaches, way less operational and hiring and team managing, way less. Because if you're working with 100 clients per month for credit repair, you better have a big team to communicate with those pings and actually service them, because it's a big operation. But now if you're doing 10 clients and they all paying you $10,000 each, you could do that by yourself. Honestly, you and one guy could do that. Okay. So even if you're in the financial industry, which product, which services is going to pay you out more? For example, with credit repair, you can charge as low as $100, maybe even $100 monthly subscription, or $50 monthly subscription. I seen a lot of prices like this, but from $100 to maybe 1,500, right? So that's not a lot, I mean, especially if you start. This is the thing that a lot of entrepreneurs happen. They're just starting off, so for them, somebody paying $1,000, they're like, you know, fuck yeah, I am gonna be absolutely fucking filthy rich, which I completely understand. I had the same problem when I first made my first. Somebody first paid me my first $1,000. I went fucking nuts. I'm like, holy fuck, I'm gonna get rich off of this. But I didn't get rich from just selling $1,000 services. I actually increased my prices, and it kept increasing and kept increasing. Now we have offers that are even $50,000, right? So I went from me charging $500 to now charging $50,000. I have products that are $12,000. I have products that are $25,000, and I have products that are 55K. Depending on the level of complexity that we're solving with the business, and depending on the services they need from me. Okay, and how long they want to work with me. If they want to work for me for a year or two, then it's a different price for somebody who wants to work with me for 4 months. So it's just different pricing offers. Okay, but pretty much if you're solving this type of problem, the credit repair, you can't charge too much. And also you're working with B2C, which is not that good. B2C is a nightmare sometimes to work with. Okay, now let's say taxes. Now taxes, you could work with B2B, but you also come across the same problem. Like, you can't charge too much unless you have a whale of a client and you keep going up market, up market, up market. Which, if you're gonna do that, totally fine. You get me? It's just gonna take you a few years to get there, because it's very difficult for you to start doing taxes. Let's say this month, and out of nowhere get a whale that is like, generating a few $100 million a year, and he's asking you to do his taxes. That's not going to happen. I mean, you could get to that level maybe in a 10-20 year time frame, totally fine, so you keep charging more for the same services. But the reality of that are very slim. Okay, now what about insurance? Now insurance is a very good offer, because a lot of people, need insurance. But this is another B2C offer. Now, there's some types of insurance that you do B2B and you can charge more and make more per client, but still, it's still a capped offer. Like it's not as scalable as you think, because when it comes to insurance, all you're doing all day is dialing the phone all day. And the actual model to scale this insurance business is to hire a bunch of agents that could sell for you, and that is the model, which you can definitely do that. Actually, one of my best friends is in the insurance business, and in just 6 months he was able to scale to 30K per month, which is, I'm so happy for him, because he actually used to work for me, and then he went to do his own thing. And I'm like, brother, like, get all the skills that you learn from us, get everything you need. And I've been, it's just so, I'm so proud of him, because it's not that easy. But when you have the skills, when you understand value, when you understand the things that I'm talking about in this exact video, you're able to make money in a relatively short amount of time. That's why I'm not BSing you. I'm not lying to you in these videos. You can actually make a lot of money in a couple months, but you need to know the actual steps. You got to follow the blueprint. You got to follow this frameworks, because if you don't understand this, that's when you go off the cliff somewhere else and you're stuck. The amount of clients that I see that have been stuck for 3 to 7K, maybe even 10K for like 3, 4, 5 years is staggering. Everyone, at this point, you worked with around 400 different companies, and I'm telling you, there's like almost like 70% of them are stuck between 5 to 10K per month, and sometimes they've been stuck with them for like years, because they just don't understand this concept. So I'm telling you, if this is the first time you like getting into this world or whatever, just understand these concepts, the levels of complexity of problems, the level of payouts per problems, and how big the market is, and how many people you can sell in that market is extremely important. You need to keep this in mind, because then you're going to stay capped, not by your potential, not by your work ethics, not by your services, but literally the industry you're in, the problem that you're solving, right? It's literally bringing you down and not able to scale to the next level. So you need to be very aware of that, because a lot of people are stuck and because they're not aware of this exact problem. Now, when it comes to business funding, like I said before, you can charge minimum $4,000, and I've seen people charge 20,000. I've seen people even charge 30,000 for their services. But this is back end of the percentage, which if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm gonna have different videos talking about this. But essentially, if you are a funding company, you provide business funding for other businesses, like you pretty much connecting between you, them, and the banks. And then let's say you get them approved for $200,000, right? You charge them 10% of the $200,000. They pay you out 20 grand. Okay, so that's pretty much the formula for that. So these are 4 different offers. Back to the point that I was saying, 4 different offers that they're all in the financial industry, but they all have different levels of potential. They all have different levels of payout. They all have different levels of work you need to do in order to get paid. And let me tell you a secret, from all 3 of these, business funding takes the least amount of work to make the most amount of money. This is why I picked business funding as a service, because credit repair takes a long time, taxes takes a long time, selling insurance is brutal, because you got to talk to 20 calls a day, and they're all gonna no show, they're all gonna ignore you, and then one may close. You get me? Insurance is a volume game, and it's brutal. Okay, so but business funding, you can literally have 3 people on a call a day, and one will pay you 4 to 10 grand. As long as you have a 30% closing rate, a minimum, right? So it's low effort and high payout, because you're providing a lot of value. Remember, the whole thing that I'm talking about, the whole concept of this video is providing tremendous amount of value. If you give value to a certain niche, you will get paid, okay? So that's something you need to completely be aware of. If not, you're gonna, like I said, it doesn't matter about your work ethic, doesn't matter about your services or how good your product is. You're gonna be stuck, because you're literally capped by the business industry that you're in. Okay. Now the real problem, and we're gonna get real here. The real problem is that you don't have the skill yet to sell these services. So I know this video, I'm like, how to get rich quick, and I'm telling you, could get this because I made a lot of money in a relatively short time, but the volume that I was doing was so big that my skills had to compound quickly. Like, it didn't take me months to get a good closing rate. It didn't take me months to understand operation. It didn't take me months to hire and build a team and build a company culture and all that. It didn't take me like a year, 8 months. It literally took me a couple months, because I was doing so much volume that just I was forced to learn quickly. Okay, so this is the real biggest problem, because you can find the niche, right? You can find the solution to the problem. You can find all these things, but then the bottleneck is you don't have the skills. Simple as that. And if you're not making a lot of money right now, it's because you don't have the skills to do so. And that is actually the biggest problem. So if you clicked on this video and thinking that I'm gonna get rich by just clicking here, here, and there, and I'm gonna give you this magic pill, that's unfortunately not the answer. Now, I'm giving you the blueprint, I'm giving you the philosophy and the framework that you got to use in order to make a shit ton of money, but I'm giving you a warning that if you don't have the skills, it's almost impossible for you to make a lot of money, because who's going to pay somebody who's not skilled? Simple as that. So the biggest problem that you're having right now as an individual when you're watching this video is that you don't have the skill set yet to get rich, right? But that's why you watch this video. That's why I'm giving you, the foresight and the information you need in order to start making a shit ton of money. Okay, so that is like the first thing is be problem aware, right? And giving value, finding the niche. Then after all of that, you need to start building up your skill set. You need to start building the skill set that actually make you rich. And I'm gonna talk about the skill sets in a minute right now. Okay, now the core skills that make you rich, it's only 4 of them, and if you master these 4 of them, it's very unlikely for you not to get rich, unless you're in an industry that is capping your potential. Remember, it's not how hard you row, is which boat you're in. Okay, so if you have these 4 skills already and you're broke, is because you picked the wrong industry and you're selling the wrong services. All right, just wanted to mention that and really hammer that point, because this is the problem that I see across the board with a lot of companies. Okay, so the first skill you need, which is my favorite one. This is my favorite skill. This is the skill that I contribute making a shit ton of money. This is the skill that brought me freedom into my world. This is the skill that I was able to pay $600,000 of debt back. This is a skill that got me to the level that I am. That I drive a beautiful Maybach, a beautiful Lamborghini. I live in a beautiful home, a $2 million home with a beautiful backyard. My house is big enough where I'm a very family oriented. I always bring all my family, usually every weekend. It's almost sometimes 50 to 60 of us. I have but my pool is so big that everybody fits there. I rent huge slides that we all jumping inside the slide into the pool, having a huge barbecue of my whole family. The reason I'm able to do that, which is also my dream, is also what I always wanted for myself. When I travel, I take family with me. I take friends and with me. Like, this is where I spend all my money. How I was able to do that? It was all through marketing. Marketing was the number one skill that made me money, right? So that's the number one thing for me. If you know how to market yourself, it fixes most things in the business, because if you don't know how to market, how are you gonna get clients? If you don't have clients, how are you gonna make money, right? And if you do have clients, well, I mean, I could go on and on and on and on, but essentially, I don't want to make this whole video about the marketing, the skill of marketing, right? But yeah, because sometimes I just get lost in the sauce and I start talking about something, and then the video gets another 10-minute long because I'm talking about one specific thing. But marketing is a very special skill. It's the skill that you cannot make, $10 million a year with sales, but you could make, $100 million a year or more with marketing. And so many people have proved this over the years. Alex Ramosi, Gary Vee. I mean, there's just so many of them that prove that marketing is the number one skill that you need in order to go to that, really, really big, either have a huge exit or be worth, tens of millions of dollars, is that skill of marketing. Okay, so that's the first skill that you need to start paying attention in and start compounding in, because if you know how to market yourself, if you know how to generate traffic, that skill you're going to take with you for the rest of your life. And this is something that we teach in our program. When you join our program, this is the 4 things that we help you build. Actually, in my program, essentially we help you go from 10K per month to 100K per month. And if you're in the financial niche, pretty much credit, funding, insurance, and tax, right? And one of the main skills that we're showing you and teaching you is marketing, because we know how powerful this skill is. We know if you know how to market yourself, it's very difficult to be broke again. Okay, which then leads to the next point, because if you know how to market yourself and you don't know how to sell, we're fucked. Right? We just generated a bunch of demand, right? And then we can't sell, which in reality, sales is bad marketing. So if you're doing a bunch of sales tactics and mental gymnastics to get somebody to close, a bunch of little sales strategies, is because your marketing is all messed up. I'm not a good salesperson. I don't consider myself, the best closer out there. But the reason why I was able to make a lot of money in a short amount of time is because my marketing was so good that it outweighed my bad sales. And then when I got good at sales, then both of them together was, that's how I got to a 70% closing rate, which is very rare in the industry. Because my marketing was good and because my sales was good, I was able to get up to a 70% closing rate, which is pretty insane and badass. Okay. Now the next thing is fulfillment, which is technically getting your clients results. Now, if you don't get your clients results, there is no business. All you're doing is spreading bad, negative word of mouth. All you're doing is promoting a bad service. All you're doing is just bringing down your brand into a level that it gets, absolutely tarnished forever, and you never come back from it because your bad reputation will spread like wildfire. So the third and most important skill is getting your client results. And that is a skill that, like, being product focused is something that a lot of people don't think about. They're mainly in this, this is something that I didn't have a problem in because so my background is in music. When my first business was a recording studio, like I was a music producer for like 12, 13 years, something like that, right? And my main mistake with that time was just being so product focused, like heavy product focused, right? I was always focused on the product. And that's probably why I failed. Well, that's for the reason maybe I failed in the industry, because I was making the best music out there, but nobody ever heard it. I never marketed it, I never sold it because I didn't know these things. I didn't treat the music business as a business, and that's most likely why I failed. I never made any money. I was just paying bills, literally. I would just make money to pay bills, and I pay bills, and I never had anything extra, right? So being product focused is everything. You can actually throw away sales, throw away marketing, and just focus on this, and a good product will market itself, right? The best type of marketing is an amazing product, in my view, right? But in some industry, that doesn't matter because, like in the music, you can have a really good song, but nobody heard it. You're not going nowhere, right? So you do have to do a little bit of marketing and then have a great offer, a great service, a great product, and then you can scale that thing, right? So that's the third skill you need to have, having great results for the people you're helping. And then lastly is leadership, right? Leadership is extremely important because then you're going to be capped by the potential the business potential is going to be capped because you're capped by your time, and there's only enough time that you have in a day. And the only way to scale, let's say, do like 100K per month, you need to start hiring, like that's the only way out of this. Like, you can't do everything yourself all the time. You're going to be capped at like 50 to 70K per month doing everything yourself, which is still a very large amount of money, especially if you're doing business funding as a service. I have my own clients that literally were making 40 to 60K per month by themselves, but just working 10-hour days because they're doing everything in the business, right? So totally possible. But if you want to get to that next level, like for us, we got up to like $300,000 per month. You need to start building a team. You need to have people closing for you. You have to have people setting for you. You have to have people getting your clients results for you. So then you can manage that, right? And then you can keep focus on the actual growth of the company. So those are the four primary skills that you need to have. And the reason why I put results go back into marketing, because the more results you get, the more you can market those results, which it goes back into more sales, right? So it's like a loop. So market yourself, then you close the deal. Once you close the deal, you get them results. Once you get the results, you market those results so you can close more deals, and then the loop keeps happening over and over again. Okay, so but essentially these are the four skills you need to, like, if you don't have these four skills, good luck. It's gonna be very difficult for you to make a lot of money, because this is the four skills that makes you money. You need to market yourself. You need to sell whatever you're marketing. You need to give those people the results, the service you're providing or the product that you're offering. And then you need to lead. If you can't lead, it's very difficult to build something worth, of tremendous value, which will make you not only rich, will make you wealthy, which is what we're all aiming for, right? We all can all, like for me and the friends that I have, we can all make money online these days. All of my friends are making from minimum 30K per month to 300K per month and above, right? Now the main thing is how do we keep that money and invest it into different areas so I could become wealthy. So like if 20 years passes, I have a couple million in stock and Bitcoin and real estate and multiple ways where I could become wealthy, not just rich, okay? So, what is the plan of action for you? I told you I was gonna have a plan of action, and here it is. It's very simple, okay? So, how to actually get rich for real? Here's what you actually need to do. One, understand money, value. Money follows solution. The bigger the problem you solve, the bigger the paycheck you earn. Simple as that. The level of complexity of problem that you're solving will give you a bigger payout. And if you want to make more money while working less, essentially, that's what you have to do. You got to solve a bigger problem so you can make more while doing less. Just kind of how I described the right here with the credit, tax, and insurance and funding. This is all in the financial industry, but one of these makes more than all of them. Okay, so this is exactly what I was saying. Number two, pick a niche and then master it. Right. So go all in. Oh, go all in one industry, learn everything about the language, the pain points, the opportunities, because if you don't understand the niche, you can't solve the problem, right? There's something super important. Like, how are you going to solve the biggest problem in that niche if you don't understand the niche itself? And this comes with time, this comes with experience, this comes with talking to a lot of people in that niche. Hey, so what is the current problem that you're solving? What is the biggest problem you have? You get me? You can pick any of these niches and again, then go talk to the clients of these niches and you can literally find out how, what is the biggest problem of them, okay? Now, number three is develop high income skills, right? So this is what I was talking about. Once you understand value, once you understand the level of problem gives you a bigger payout, once you pick the niche, right, and you're going all in, then you need the skills to actually make that type of money, right? So learning marketing, sales, leadership, and how to get results. Once you're on track, once you stack those skills, you can build an empire in any niche. That's it. Three, well, technically four, right? Um, uh, Shortcuts, you can just care. So yeah, no shortcuts, just clarity, value, and execution. Do this for long enough, and you'll get rich. Becomes inevitable, and it is literally like the truth. And I've seen it with my own eyes. Multiple people. I remember before I made a lot of money online, I used to look at people who had like Lamborghinis and big mansions and all this stuff. And I was always like, how the fuck? Like, so I was working with my pops. He was somebody who worked with wood, and we would go to these mansions here in Miami, and we would do the finishes of the wood. And I'm talking about mansions. Like I worked in celebrities' houses, like basketball players, famous singers, stuff like that. Because my dad will when a contractor will call him, hey, I need this roof wood ceiling or this panels on the wall or whatever it may be. I need it to be sanded and stained or whatever it may be, right? And I did this for a couple years because I said I was always broke, so I worked with my pops a little bit because I was a musician that had a studio, but the studio was pretty much breaking even. I was pretty much running a nonprofit, and then I would make a little bit of money extra with my pops, and then um, you know, point is that I will work in these mansions, man, like $10 million, $20 million, $30 million, and I will walk around these houses. I remember my pops would get mad at me. They're like, "Javi, get back to fucking work," and I would just be like, "Holy crap!" Like, I remember I would just walk slowly around these houses and be like, "What the fuck? Like, how do you have all this money? How? Like, and sometimes the owner was never there, so I couldn't really ask. And then my father probably would have killed me if I actually went to the owner and started asking him what do they do for a living. But I was just baffled. I would be like, how the hell is people making all this money? I just didn't know. I was probably like 18 to like 23 or 24, and I was just like, how the hell are these people making so much money? I just didn't understand it. And now I do. Now I understand it. It's value, skills, and a great offer, right? Like that's literally it. Provide value, pick a niche, provide great, create a great offer that solve those problems, and then have the right skills in order to lead that company to the next level. So these are things that I used to just look at these people that are making fucking millions of dollars a year and be like, how the hell is that even possible? How the hell are they able to make all this money? And the answer was what I just gave you. So if you want to get rich, um, relatively in a short amount of time. Follow the things that I said in this book, and just be patient. Be patient, and but also try to move as fast as possible. You get me? It's like you're moving with, you're being patient, but you're also very, very aggressive, right? Because the faster you move, the faster you get to where you want to be. So if you want to get rich in a relatively short amount of time, find a niche that you can provide value in. Find the biggest problem on that niche, right? So like I said, in the financial industry, go to the biggest problem that the financial industry has, and service that product. Don't go to the lowest one, like let's say like credit repair, right? Because it will be the lowest that you can charge, so that you solve the lowest problem. So go to the highest problem, solve that problem, and then start building the skills to build a company that solve that problem at scale, right? Simple as that. Okay, so already this video is a little bit longer than I wanted to. It's already 40 minutes, so I want to end it here. But this is actually what you need to do if you want to make a shit ton of money coming up for 2026.